This is something I wrote with Ossining in mind. So first I got to start with a confession. I spent time at Sing Sing prison in Rikers Island in the 1980s. You may be thinking, wow, this bald Jewish guy in his 60s who works for an accounting firm must have been a real badass 40 years ago. Either that or he was a criminal defense attorney. Well, I have to tell you, I've never been incarcerated and I've never been a criminal defense attorney. No, back in the 1980s, I was a trade magazine reporter. So writing for trade magazines lacks the name recognition and the glamour of writing, or what used to be the glamour of writing for a big city newspaper or the New Yorker. No, I toiled for niche publications like Dry Cleaners News, The Business of Fur, Leather Today, Banks and Insurance Report, and Magazine Age. Still, this line of work gave me entree to Sing Sing and Rikers. So in 1984, I was writing for Quick Frozen Foods magazine. My assignment? Write about frozen foods at the Big House, Sing Sing Correctional Facility. Well, that sounded fun. The headline I came up with was, Frozen Fare Gives Prison Chefs Something to Sing Sing About. That headline practically wrote itself. So the staff at Sing Sing gave me very clear instructions on how to get there from the Ossining train station a half-mile away. I arrived, signed in, was frisked, and then with my notepad and camera, I went to get the story. The highly cooperative food service team gave me a lot of details about the operation. Nutrition Director John Caserta took pride in his operation to feed 2,200 men with a professional staff of 11 and 130 inmate workers, along with 14 security guards. Consistency is the key. As one official with the Bureau of Prisons told me of the realities of prison life, in a purely socialistic society, everybody has what everybody else has. With any difference, a black market grows. So the prisoners at the Allenwood Country Club prison and the lifers at Leavenworth all get the same grub. So Sergeant Leander McCall Jr. was the head of food service security, and he made a big impression on me. He was about this tall. I described him as an imposing man with a handshake like a vice. He brooks no foolishness. Caserta described him as the motivator. My impression, dedicated people kept the place working. And I also learned the first rule of prison food service, and that is, don't run out of food, because hungry customers are unhappy customers, especially in a penitentiary. So 4 years after Sing Sing, I had my adventure at Rikers. By then, I was the East Coast editor of Video Store magazine, covering what was then the thriving video retailing industry, which some of y'all are probably too young to remember. That was before Blockbuster obliterated the industry and then Netflix crushed Blockbuster. So while Sing Sing was memorable, Rikers was epic. I joined the press group invited to Rikers when the rap group Public Enemy performed at Rikers, an event every bit as historic as Johnny Cash's concert at Folsom Prison. The performance was being filmed as part of a music video. Public Enemy was the first group to ever play at Rikers, and they came loaded with songs that instantly connected with the audience. You know what they are. Don't Believe the Hype, Don't Believe the Hype, Bring the Noise, and a classic, Fight the Power. I can't find any articles I wrote about Rikers, but I did make a laconic note in my journal of August 14, 1988. This was after I returned, exhausted, from a big video trade show in Las Vegas. I wrote, Friday wasn't much of a day off. I went to Rikers for the Public Enemy gig. That turned into an all-day romp in the heat of a prison, and I didn't return here until 5:15 p.m. So the best summary of the event is a 2013 article, Public Enemy at Rikers, an oral history. Planning the show took just over a week. The paperwork was expedited by a tangential relationship between members of Public Enemy's camp and the Rikers staff. They arranged for 2 buses to transport 150 members of the press from Midtown Manhattan to Rikers. I don't think you could find 150 members of the press in all of Manhattan these days. The press arrived at Rikers before noon. They were patted down, taken on a brief tour, and then ushered into a small room. Security was minimal, with the only restriction being that the press refrained from asking the prisoners what they were in for. So the 250 prisoners entered the bare bones auditorium. Even by August in New York City standards, it was brutally hot, and the prisoners' jumpsuits were drenched in sweat. In keeping with the protocol, there were 2 guards per inmate, with an additional 25 to 30 guards outside the auditorium and additional officers from other houses on alert. The press stood behind barricades and formed a horseshoe on the perimeter of the crowded room, a few feet away from the inmates who were seated on plastic chairs. So, yeah, back to me. I remember the heat, the ear-splitting noise, the tough-as-nails guards, and the holding pen for us reporters who stuck out like pale, sore thumbs in our natty sports jackets and penny loafers. I now work in marketing for a professional services firm, and while that's highly satisfying and has lasted as long as all my magazine gigs did taken together, I still look back fondly to the unpredictable zest of writing for the trades. I never knew what I'd find on my plate, and that's something to sing about. Thank you.